All right, yeah, so super excited to have this last workshop together. It's really sad, bittersweet that we are all zooming in together. I had imagined, having a potluck to celebrate the end of our workshop series, but it's cool that we're able to do this on Zoom. So at least thanks for being here and hope we all can have a tasty lunch discussion. I'm gonna start sharing my screen. Thanks for sharing out some of your plants already. I know I saw Cindy, your plants, but I hope all your plants are doing well. Mine actually were a bit starting to get yellow, I thought, because they got too much sun. So I brought them a little bit in the shade, but they're still kind of growing small. And then this is my chives and the lettuce right there. But we'll see how they go. Even though we didn't get a harvest with them, we're gonna the workshop title says, we're gonna be cooking together. So excited to share that. We have some announcements before we start. Stephanie, our media coordinator, has published the first 4 workshop recordings on YouTube. So go ahead and check that out. I think Stephanie will drop that link in the chat box. And then another announcement. This is the community garden plots that we are getting at the ASUCD Community Garden. Stephanie and I actually went this past week, and do you see this like tall weeds in the back? They're really like covered in spikes and this thistle. But we took those out and started clearing out these plots so far. And I didn't want to give you all the impression that gardening, like at home, like we have been, is easy. It is not. It can be backbreaking. It can be, involve some sweat and labor. But when we invest all that together, we can enjoy some fruit eventually, right? So it's. I hope you all are still excited to garden together in the summer or in the fall if you want. We're planning to get these plots for us. And yeah, for today's workshop, we will be going over how to harvest as our last kind of workshop. And then we'll have the UCD Teaching Kitchen interns presenting on just like nutritional and sharing nutritional facts and resources on campus. I don't know if y'all have seen the reels on Instagram. I have. So we'll get to meet Khang and Wenjun, who are behind that. And then we'll be doing a cooking demo, preparing some cucumber and radish salsa. So get those ingredients ready. And then we'll have breakout groups to finish cooking and eat together. And then we'll have a final share out and wrap up discussion. Any questions with that? If not, yeah, these are some last other announcements. Last week we had the student designs, students share out their garden designs. So check out this Jamboard link. If Anca or Stephanie, you can drop that link in the chat box as well. And then, yeah, we'll try to put some of these plans into action this summer at our plots. And then these are our workshop objectives. We'll be going over an icebreaker in a moment, one of my favorite. And then to acknowledge the inherent knowledge that we all have and grow up with, I would say we all know what good food or healthy food looks like or can be, but we can continue to discuss and strategies for selecting produce, or accessing healthy food on campus as students. And then we'll also be learning about how to harvest, when to harvest. We'll be preparing some recipe together, and then we'll consider some goals that we can continue to grow as gardeners and mindful consumers after these workshops. All right, so this is the icebreaker. I left all for y'all to have a moment to think about this. Please share a memory, one of your fondest memories with gardening or food. And that's our icebreaker that we'll be sharing in breakout groups. All right, it's now time for just a brief share out about harvesting information. I know one of the students particularly requested this too. But Anca, take it away.
Okay, so this was something that a lot of people were curious about, and you will see that once you start gardening and growing your own food, you're going to be curious. Is it ready? Can I have it now? Do I need to wait? You remember the green onions that we planted? They're probably good enough to harvest now. Usually when they reach about a foot height, then you can just remove them, wash them, and use them in the salad. Some people eat them, just like asparagus. But if you want to grow a bulb, then you're going to need to leave it a little bit longer. And when it comes to radishes, when they reach about this big, like around an inch, they're ready to harvest. And they should have this really red coating. Cherry tomatoes are going to be tricky. They're going to take a little bit longer than we initially thought. They should be really red if they are red, right? Because they're also yellow cherry tomatoes. They should be slightly soft, and when you pull them off the vine, they should come off quite easily, right? A little bit of trial and error will also tell you when your particular cultivar is ready for harvest as well. For lettuce and basil, the advantage is that you can just pick off a few leaves and use them with a salad, and the plant will keep growing, right? Just don't take out too many, so that's the plant is not going to die. When it comes to other vegetables, some of them are very difficult to know, and you're just gonna have to take a chance. Like for example, melons or avocados, right? And sometimes you can just from experience, or maybe you can ask some people, or our network of garden managers can give you some tips on that. Usually the best indication would be on your seed packet. That should tell you roughly, if you respect the recommendations for light and temperature and water and nutrients, that should tell you roughly when your harvest should be ready. All right, thank you, Borah.
Any questions? So when do you know when your radishes are ready?
Okay, so they should be like
yeah,
a quarter big, or like this, like sorry, like an inch,
nice.
the width. Yeah.
Yeah, so you all can feel free, like feel around in the soil and the roots. Use your senses and your observations, and you can also just Google it if you forget. Anyways, if there aren't any questions, we're going to move on to our special guest speaker presentation.
I think Katharina has raised her hand.
It's not a question, but I worked on a farm one time and I was picking blackberries, and the farmer encouraged me to taste the blackberries as I was picking them, so I could get a sense of what stage was the most ripest stage. And so another thing you can do is just sort of like experiment with yourself. So you can taste tomatoes at different stages, and that's another way to learn like when is the best stage, but sometimes they don't taste very good when you're experimenting like that.
Yeah, great tip. Yeah.
All right, well, Khang and Wenjun, now they'll be spotlighted so we can see them in their presentation.
Hi everyone, we're Teaching Kitchen. So my name is Khang, my pronouns are he and his. I'm a third year clinical nutrition major, and I'm a nutrition student coordinator working at Teaching Kitchen.
Hey everyone, my name is Wenjun. I'm also a clinical nutrition science major. I work as a Teaching Kitchen intern.
Cool, so we're really excited to be here today, like Borah said. So I want to thank Borah and Anca for inviting us to speak. And so today we're going to talk about how to pick produce from a grocery store, some nutrition recommendations for fruit and vegetable intake. We're going to highlight some nutritional values from radishes and cucumbers, and then we're going to show you some recipes on our Instagram as well. And so if you don't know who we are, can you go back to the last slide? Yeah, perfect. If you don't know who we are, I want to give you some background on our programming. So we are dedicated to teaching college students basic cooking skills while also teaching students about food safety principles and practical nutrition education. We often focus on recipes that are affordable and approachable and also culturally diverse. And we also work with Aggie Compass and the pantry to address food insecurity. And so therefore we prioritize college student-friendly recipes using pantry and freezer staples. So we want to first start on how to pick produce, and this is in no way like an exhaustive list of like the guidelines, but specific produce have different indicators of ripeness, but these are just like general tips. So the first one is firm and no soft spots. So as you can see on the right with the asparagus, you can see how the right picture is a little mushy, whereas the left picture, you can tell the stems are a little more firm. And then same thing for like potatoes and apples and different squashes. You want like firm to the touch. Another one is vibrant in color. Same thing here with the asparagus, you can see it's like a really bright green, whereas the right picture is very dull. And this happens just because of oxidation and just like being in the elements and like being transported from point A, point B. And so they tend to lose that bright green color. Another one is fragrance. So this is really good for fruits, especially like mangoes and like melons and berries, and especially citrus fruits. If they're really fragrant, that tends to be an indicator of like how sweet they are. I tend to use that trick a lot. With COVID, it's a little harder, but once COVID ends. And then the last one is how heavy relative to its size. So this is especially important for squashes like the butternut squash here, and then also melons. And then I want to ask, I know Wenjun already asked a question, but in your experience, what is the most difficult fruit and vegetable to pick out? Okay, Borah already said watermelon. Yeah, a lot of people say watermelon. Any others?
Someone mentioned the avocados in the chat as well.
Yeah, those two tend to be like the really, really difficult ones. Cool. So Wenjun is going to go over this slide.
So how much fruits and vegetables you should like intake every single day? I know most of you have your like home garden, and then you already have like access to a lot of the produce already, which is really good. So according to the USDA dietary guidelines, it's recommended that adults eat anywhere from 5 to 13 servings of fruits and vegetables per day, depending on their individual conditions. So how much is one serving? So one serving is typically 1 cup of raw fruits or vegetables, or half cup of cooked vegetables. So I know it's like kind of hard for you to carry like a measuring cup with you every single time you're trying to like eat a meal. So is there any ways that we can make sure that we are like intaking sufficient amount of fruits and vegetables every day? So I'm gonna give you 2 tips right here. The first one is like a really important one, is called the balanced plate. I don't know like if any of you have heard of this model or this phrase before. So a balanced plate is like what the government suggests as like a my plate model. It suggests that whenever you are planning your meal, you want a half of your plate to be filled with fruit and vegetables. So by doing so, you're like unconsciously trying to like meet up with your fruits and vegetables intake for the day. And another tip is try to eat the rainbow. So this phrase is proposed by the Heart Healthy Association in America. And then the reason why they are saying so is because they are encouraging people to eat as like many variety of food as possible. So by doing so, you're like eating different kinds of colors of fruits and vegetables, and then different colors of fruits and vegetables or produce, meaning that they contain different kinds of vitamins and nutrients in it. Next slide, please.
So I'm going to highlight radish because this is like the star ingredient for today. So the radish root is really rich in water. This is really important for hydration, especially as the summer rolls around. So you, instead of drinking your water, this is not a replacement for drinking your water, but you can get additional water from your food. So radish is a great source. It's also a great source of folic acid or folate, which is important for DNA synthesis. It's vitamin B9, same thing. And then the radish leaves are actually edible, and then you can make a pesto out of them, or you can like saute it down with like garlic, I guess. There's recipes online, but it's really rich in calcium. Can anyone tell me like what are some other calcium-rich foods? Spinach, yeah. A lot of dark leafy green vegetables like spinach are really high in calcium. So like bok choy, collard greens, really high in calcium. The most obvious one being like dairy, but also tofu and like sardines with bone also have calcium. And then for both the radish and the roots, they have vitamin C, but the leaves tend to have a little bit more. And then as Wenjun saying, like different vegetables have different vitamins and minerals. And this one is the antioxidant anthocyanins is what gives the radish that little bright violet color. And so that anthocyanins have been shown to have heart protective effects and also cancer fighting properties. Next.
And also I want to highlight another ingredients we're going to use today in our recipe. It's the cucumber. And also cucumber is famous for its like water content in it. So it has like almost like 96% of water in this like little vegetable. Yes, and it helps promote your hydration, especially when it's summer and then you don't have the habit of bringing a water bottle with you. You wanted to eat your hydration. That's a phrase. And because cucumber has a really mild flavor and crunchy texture, it is good to pair with other ingredients that has slightly stronger flavor than it does. Also, cucumber has a sufficient amount of nutrients such as potassium. It also contains fiber. All the vegetables, they contain like a sufficient amount of fibers and also vitamin C. Next slide, please. And then here is a recipe that is developed by one of our student coordinator. I think Borah knows her, Julia. It's the fruits and veggie like up card that we have. So if you wanted to add like try something else with the ingredients you're having and then adding a little bit of other like components to it, definitely take a screenshot of this recipe. It's really good. All right, and then I just want to share like a bit of my experience about like me growing like the garlic chive. I know like comparing to like you're all like kind of like expert in gardening. I'm just like a newbie, and then I really have no idea how I'm supposed to grow stuff. And I'm really surprised that it turns out to be good. It took me like around 1 month or so for it to grow from like picture 1 to the last picture. And the reason why I started to do this is just because I've left a garlic on my counter for so long, and then they started to sprout. So I'm like, okay, let's just grow some garlic chive from it. And then that's basically what I have. So I have my old garlics, I have my glass container, a random glass container, some napkin, and then cotton balls, because you want to place the bottom of the garlic on that so they can start to rooting. And some water. I know some people like after they root, they will transfer them to the soil. I've never tried that, but if it's something that you're interested in, definitely try it out. And here's like a little recipe that I've done with the garlic chive that I've grown, and then just I saute it and mix it with the cream cheese, add in some salt and pepper, and then make it as like a cheese spread. Yeah.
And so you can watch like a garlic chive recipe on our Instagram, but we're gonna watch a knife skills demonstration because we're gonna be cutting a lot of produce today.
Okay.
Thank you.
Gloves to protect yourself from cutting any fingers or cutting yourself. You want to put the knife cutting glove on your non-dominant hand, which means the hand that you are not holding the knife with. And then after you put the knife cutting glove, you want to put another glove right on top, like so. After your knife cutting glove is on, you want to make sure that you're working with a clear and flat workspace. And also when you're not working with the knife, you want to make sure it's pointed away and flat on the table.
With your dominant hand, hold the knife firmly using the last 3 fingers, and your thumb and index finger to hold the blade to ensure maximum control. You want to cut using tidal wave motions and ensure the tip of the knife constantly touches the cutting board. You want to make sure that you have the power come from your wrist and not your elbow while cutting to ensure maximum control. Make sure that your non-dominant hand is holding the produce in a claw. As you are chopping, make sure that your hand remains in this bear claw motion to minimize the risk of cutting yourself. Continue this process until the produce is fully cut. When chopping a bell pepper,
Cool. Thank you. And then you can go to the next slide. And you can find these on our Instagram. And so we wanted to share some food resources for y'all. So Fruit and Veggie Up, Aggie Compass, the pantry. So you can take a screenshot of this. Oh, and then also Wenjun sent it in the chat. And if you're interested and like what you see and like our content, make sure to follow us on our Instagram at UC Davis Teaching Kitchen. We'll put it in the chat. Thank you.
Yay. All right. Well, what did you all think? Any questions for the Teaching Kitchen interns before we jump into our next item?
Yes, I just saw like Katharina mentioned fridge. Yes, if you go to the food access map, they will tell you like the accurate location of every fridge that you can find in Davis. It's
Yes.
also they have a lot of they have a lot of like amazing stuff. I one time found like a bag of like grapes and then chobani like yogurt in it. It's awesome.
I feel like the one by the Davis Food Co-op is a pretty prime for each location, and the one by the MU.
I remember getting a really good pie at the fridge one time at by the food co-op. It was really good. Or like one of those galettes. But yeah. Anyway, we are now jumping into our main event. But before we do, let's thank Khang and Wenjun for their wonderful presentation and all the work they're doing. Definitely follow them on Instagram. I love watching their reels. It's super helpful. And now I'm gonna share my other screen. I was trying to think about the best way to have this cooking demo at the comfort of my home. But so you'll get to see me in the screen, but also see my cutting board. Definitely stop me if you have any questions, but I am mostly set up for this recipe. Are you all also ready? I asked that you guys prepare and like wash all the ingredients. So we will have a cucumber. I'm gonna use half of a long one. And then I have my radishes. I'll have 12 of them. And then I'm actually gonna take off the stems of these and save the radish greens for another salad or something, because they're also like we've learned. And then I'm just gonna cut off the stem right at the root and take the roots off as well. We have 1/4 of an onion. So I have one white onion here. And then I have a lime that I've already chopped in half, and then I'm gonna juice with my juicer. And then I'll have a garlic clove, but I actually like it a little bit more spicy, so I might have 2. And then a pepper or serrano pepper, and then cilantro. Where's my cilantro? Oh, I actually chopped these so you guys can. So I'm already smelling the salsa, like once you open up the cilantro, and then salt and pepper on the side. Okay, so and definitely if you weren't able to acquire any of the other ingredients, like feel free to substitute. Substitute maybe chives instead of the cilantro, as we have grown that. And then we've seen the cooking demo, or like just the cutting, chopping skills, but definitely as you're cutting, make sure to focus on the knife, and so we don't have any injuries. But I'm just going to be cutting this in half, and right now feel free to follow along. We're going to have time in breakout groups to cut and chop and mix everything and then taste together, but I'll be doing the demo first here. And then I'm just going to try to get cut this in half so I get a flat surface to work with. And that makes it easier for me to chop. And then I'm going to do like half moon circles. And then I kind of like my salsa a little bit with more fine texture. So I'm going to cut these more thinly. Okay. Yeah, I hope you all are enjoying cutting and chopping your cucumbers. And then I'm going to move on to the next part of the demo with our radishes. But with the radishes, I have destemmed and cut off chop this part off. Save this for a salad later or a radish top soup that I made. This is also really good on all recipes. I'm like advertising for all recipes now. And then you can take off the roots, compost part of it, and I'm gonna chop it in half and then use half moon circles, kind of like with the cucumber. And these radishes are a bit they're a root vegetable, so they're gonna have a more crisp texture. But yeah, and then chop this up to thin pieces, and then I'm gonna dice it. Oh, can you all smell the radishes? I wish you can smell it from my computer here. But yeah, this is what I have right here. It's pretty small and fine. And I'm gonna add it to my bowl. And that's what I'll do for the radishes. Next, we have an onion. So this, actually I learned Anca sent me a cool video with teaching half or chopping half for onions. You can, after you take the peels off, I'm gonna cut one side of the roots off. I kind of did that already. Compost that, and then take the skin off. But if you keep the one of the top parts intact, you could just chop it sideways and then chop it like this, very thinly sliced. And then when you crimp, you can crimp the onion like a tennis ball and then chop it like this, not your finger, chop it, and then it'll come in to perfectly diced form. And then we'll be chopping one garlic clove. A tip with garlic is that you don't have to more easily peel off the skin. You can use the side of your knife and smash it, and then it comes out a lot more easily. And then just take off the head part, chop it off, and mince, and then you will be good to go. So that's a garlic tip for that. I personally do not like it too spicy, but for my salsa, I think it should be spicy. If you don't like the spice, you could take out the seeds, but I'm gonna add mine into the salsa. And then that's the pepper and cilantro I had already chopped up. This is about like half a cup. So I'm gonna pour that in. And then I think last but not least, am I forgetting anything? Of cucumbers, radishes, onions, garlic clove. I added 2 just because I like it extra spicy with the salsa, and the pepper, cilantro. And then I'm gonna juice my lime, but this is what I have right now. So just gonna mix it up, and then if you don't have a juicer, you could just squeeze the lime too. I'm just gonna put the flat side of the lime into my juicer and then squeeze. And that's half a lime. Each half of a lime gives me about like a tablespoon of juice. So that's it for the cooking demo. Any questions? Preguntas? Ooh, refried beans and corn tortillas. I am all on board with that. Getting hungry. Okay. Ooh, fish tacos. Oh, King, I want to come over to your place. All right. I think that's all. Let me. System, be it insects, plants, or other people. Any thoughts? Feel free to type it out in the chat box if your mouth is full. Or just take the floor. Yeah, we have the last like 10 minutes of our class just to share.
You can buy direct from the farmers at the farmers market and help support local people in your area.
I think in general, like a lot of it is just like looking at the things you need to do to take care of your plants and like thinking about the methods in which you're going to do it, because like, you know, as far as like agriculture, we have like those huge industrial farms that like, you know, monocrops and stuff, no respect to the biodiversity, but then you have like smaller farms that are really trying to work with the land rather than against it.
I agree, yeah. Anyone else want to add on to that?
I think for me, I often think about like I think about pesticide use, especially in trying to find. I mean, sometimes organic produce is more expensive than non-organic produce, but I feel like pesticide exposure is not great for people or insects or animals. So that's sometimes what I think about.
Yeah, for sure. And even when I was getting these radishes from the farmers market today, I was asking, was it organic or not? And he said, no, I'm not organic, but they didn't use pesticides. And I was like, oh, great. That means I can eat these radish greens. But if it had been pesticide or conventionally grown, I probably would not eat the lettuce, the greens on top, because I wouldn't know what I'm eating then. Yeah. Any other thoughts?
The thing too with organic is that doesn't even necessarily mean no pesticides. Like sometimes they do have their own, but are still able to be classified as organic. So I don't know. It's just kind of a difficult thing to balance sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. I like how one person said it's not really about, I mean, organic versus conventional, but just like what is in tune with what is the environment, what is the like nature, you know, like what is the natural balance in the ecosystem? Now, can we support that? Yeah, any other thoughts? I also share this reading The Pleasures of Eating essay. I don't know if anyone got to read through it, but one quote I wanted to highlight is, eating is an agricultural act. What did y'all think about that? Eating and the food that we eat, how is that tied to agriculture and the choices that we make? How does that tie into the choices that agriculturalists make maybe? When we think about the food that we buy, or like organic versus conventional, or local versus, right? There's so many different choices that we face when we go to the grocery store. And I wouldn't say like any one thing is right? But I think just how can the choices that we make support not only our physical health, but also the health of our environment? And that's something that I would love to for us all to end on. If you didn't get time to read through the chapter, there's some takeaways, like definitely go back to it and skim through it. Even it's just such a great read. But I love that he includes some direct steps that we can take to eat in a way that honors and respects and nourishes our bodies and also the environment. So by gardening, what are we doing now, right? Like we're growing our own food, participating in the extent that we can. As students, I wouldn't say it's feasible for all of us to grow all the food that we eat, right? But just being a part of it. If you can't grow at your own place, go to volunteer at the student farm. This such Esperanza's been sharing, but it's such a wonderful place, right, Esperanza? And at the community garden, when we're going to start publicizing work days, and when we do, definitely come out. We would love to see you there. Any other thoughts? Feel free to think about your own take-home challenge for this last one. What is one goal that you have for yourself, whether it's continuing to grow as a gardener or as being more mindful of a consumer, or just as you are. So yeah, complete this post-workshop evaluation survey. It's it's a required part of the workshops because Aggie Compass is funding this workshop and would love to hear our feedback. And then sign up for an interview with me in 2 weeks. And please share your challenge here in the chat box. Type it into the chat box, and we look forward to gardening potentially together in the future.